This episode of Truth Table is brought to you by our NAACP Image Award nominated book, Truth Table, Black Women's Musings on Life, Love, and Liberation. Get it where all books are sold.
Sisters, how y'all feel? Brothers, y'all all right? If this is your first time at Truth Table, welcome to the table. And if you've been sitting at the table with us all these years, we are so grateful that you have been listening to us through these years, and we are inviting you to partner with us and support our work at patreon.com/truthstable. Now pull up a chair and have a seat at the table with us. Hey y'all, welcome to Truth Table, Midwives of Culture for Grace and Truth. I'm Kemini.
And I'm Christina.
This table is built by Black women and for Black women. So welcome to the table, C. How you doing, girl?
I'm doing good. We are, at our recording retreat right now.
Woohoo.
And so let the good times roll. I'm doing well. We got good weather. It's not raining or storming outside. So I think all things are going to go well. I'm optimistic, and we have a amazing guest today.
Yes, y'all. We have a behind the book episode with no stranger to the table.
Come on now.
Our dear sister, Latasha Morrison, is here at the table. Welcome to the table.
Thank you. It's good to be here at the table.
Yes. So, y'all, maybe, because you might be new to the table, so I don't want to assume. But Latasha actually came on Truth Table in the first season. She was one of our first Black Girl Magic guests, if I remember.
Yeah.
Indeed,
and
she was.
She's also come on to talk. And this is maybe your third time, I believe, at the table.
I can't even remember, but yeah.
I believe it is. We had 8 seasons, so
it's been a while. It's been a while. But towards the beginning, I remember being the Black Girl Magic, and I think I came on another time too.
Talk about dating.
But yes, that's what it was.
Look at that. Oh, well.
Yeah.
And so we are back at the table, and Latasha is actually back at the table with us for a behind the book episode of her new release, Brown Faces, White Spaces,
all right.
Confronting Systemic Racism to Bring Healing and Restoration. It is in stores now, so make sure you buy this book
with
and support Black women.
With a quickness.
Okay?
Quickness.
All right. And so just in case, though, you don't know about our friend Latasha Morrison, I'm going to read a little something about her. Latasha Morrison is a certified trainer in cultural intelligence and unconscious bias and the New York Times best-selling author of Be the Bridge, which won the ECPA Christian Book of the Year Award. In 2016, she founded the nonprofit organization Be the Bridge to inspire and equip Christians to be ambassadors of racial reconciliation. Named a leading social justice advocate by Facebook's community leadership program, Forbes and Ebony, Morrison travels extensively as an in-demand speaker and teacher, but she currently makes her home in Atlanta. Welcome to the table, Tasha.
Thank you. It's still always weird when people read your bio. You're looking like...
Well, listen, so Kemini read that bio, but tell us about who you really are, because we've all written a bio before, but introduce Latasha for real to our audience.
Well, I am Latasha. I am the daughter of Gene and Brenda. I am originally from North Carolina.
Yes.
I have spent most of my adult life in Atlanta, but 5 years in Austin, Texas. So a lot of you who think I'm still in Texas, I left there a while ago. Nothing against Texas, but just wanted to get back to the East Coast with family. Yeah. And just I am this work really started because I was a local church girl, and I wanted to see the church live into its true mission, and just the church to be all that it can be. So that was really how this work started. So it started with me doing this work in my environment, just having conversations and trying to really help people. And this, God saw it fit to, choose it. And, this is why I'm doing this. But the thing is with this, who chooses this? To be honest, who really, who
among us?
Exactly. Who signs up for this? And so I didn't really sign up for it, but I said yes. So
Amen.
I did in a way, but it wasn't something that I saw myself doing when I was in college or anything like that. But it's good work. Yeah. It's good trouble, as they say.
Yes,
it's good trouble.
It is. We know that you have a New York Times best-selling Be the Bridge.
Oh my goodness.
And now you have brown faces,
right,
white spaces.
Right.
You know, can you talk to us about maybe if there is some continuity, from Be the Bridge into brown faces and white spaces, particularly in this time and in this climate, on when, because I believe Be the Bridge hit the New York Times bestseller in 2020.
Yeah.
I want to say summer 2020, but you can correct me.
Yeah,
you know, and now we are 4 years later. And things have changed. And so I'm curious about
and yet stay the same.
Yeah. And, hello. So things have changed. And so what does that feel like, you know, in this context?
It's a big difference. Like I originally wrote the first book in 2018.
Right.
And it came out the end of 2019. And it wasn't until like 6 months later when we had the racial no reckoning. You know?
The
Tell the truth. Yes, the performance.
Racial performance.
Where nothing really changed and there was no lived conviction, you know, within the work. But with this, one of the things that I've realized is that God always uses a remnant. You know, it's not the majority of people that get something, you know? And so I have to keep reminding myself of that, you know? So it's like a powerful minority. And even with some of the loud voices that we hear now, it is really a very dominant, powerful minority group. But we have to remember that it was a very dominant, powerful minority group that disrupted Germany. You know, and so we have to remember that. And so the climate is very different because there's been like a rejection. And I have to remember that because you can take it personal, like there's a rejection of me.
Yes.
When it's not a rejection of me, it's really, to me, it's really, it's sin.
Period.
And it's a rejection of the message of Jesus. And so holding this work like this with open hands, it helps me not to take it so personal, but I'm human.
Come on.
Yeah.
And because I'm human, when you see the disengagement, it's hurtful because we know eventually it will be harmful.
Come on.
You know, and it's really to see my parents, I interviewed my 94-year-old aunt for my book trailer. And to hear her, like she's in the hospital right now, she has pneumonia. And to hear her say in that video, it seems like we're going backwards. You know, all the things she's seen in her life. You know, she was born in 1929. And if you think about what she's lived through and what she's seen, what she wasn't able to do, and to say in 2024, we're still having some of these same conversations, it should grieve us, you know? It should grieve us as people. It should grieve us as Christians, and it should definitely grieve us as a country. And so I think for me to hear her say that, I can't control everything. You know, as Latasha Morrison, like outside of Be the Bridge, I know that the gifts that I've been given is that of a leader, a change agent, and bridge builder. So wherever I am, that's who I'm going to be. And so I'm always, my motto is like, I'm going to do the next right thing. And so I can't control America. I can't control this environment, but I'm going to still continue to tell the truth. You know, because I know that it's not reaching everyone, but it is reaching some people. There has been transformation. And I keep reminding myself of that, you know, how old folks say, you got to encourage yourself in the Lord, you know, because you can really, you can move into despair. And so I have to, you know, keep hope centered in this. Yes. You know what I'm saying? And hope is about waiting, you know? Hope is about anticipation, expectation, you know? And so I have to remember that, but I have to reinforce that with myself because it's easy to say in my head, but to believe it in my heart.
Come on.
And so just getting that to move from my head to her heart. That's I know that intellectually.
It's a long
I know that scripturally. But to really believe that God is going to move, God is going to do, that God is going to solve, that God is going to restore and redeem. Like, I have to believe that in my heart. And so that's the part that I'm working through. And so with me, I'm like, okay, in this book, I'm going to lift up our stories. I'm going to help our brothers and sisters, our white brothers and sisters, create some spaces that are brave and courageous and safe, because I do believe if they read this book and listen to what we are experiencing in these systems, there are some people that are going to that are on the wall, that are there. Right. Like we have a woman that's a part of our community that's like doing DEI stuff within the Ohio school district, a place of power. Another lady came up to me last night at our book event, and she's a teacher, and a white teacher in a predominantly African-American school district. And she's doing this work, and she's creating safe environments for those babies, in a sense where so many of our kids have bad experiences.
Yes.
I was just talking to an African-American sister, here in Franklin, outside of Franklin, that her daughter is like really having a difficult time, and dealing with racial identity, because of the school district she's in. Like, she doesn't get invited to anything. Yeah. And so when a teacher is aware, and a teacher sees that, and she knows that I'm going to treat every student like they belong, and I'm going to encourage that within that friend group, they can be a voice or an accomplice, in this work for us. So I know that sometimes it feels like it's not mattering. It's so hard, and we're going backwards. But I also think, like, they ain't even listen to Jesus. So what makes me think they're going to listen to me, And so, but that doesn't determine whether I do what I'm called to do or not, So I have to do this work, what you say, in season and out of season. And right now it's out of season, but my calling is still in season, I know, right. And so that's what, but this is my head and intellect. But sometimes my heart is like, you know what? Y'all could just go kick rocks. Like, sometimes I feel like that, and that's real. And I was really honest about that, even as I'm doing this tour, I'm really honest about what I'm feeling. Every day I get up, I don't want to do this, Yeah. I was telling someone, I was like, I always say I can go work at Target and I have a peace of mind, but I wouldn't be at peace. Yeah. But maybe at Buc-ee's, but
I mean, you be late though. Target be having a thing. They can Target.
That is so good. That is so good in Southern Buc-ee's.
Right? It is. Buc-ee's. Well, I found out, they kind of pay really well,
They make good sandwiches.
Really?
I'm not gonna lie.
They make good sandwiches, and they pay their managers.
I know. You see that sign outside?
Yeah, I see.
Options, so.
I see.
Well, even when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about the ways in which truth telling is an act of faith. Just telling the truth. It is. And truth doesn't become true because people agree with you.
Exactly.
Truth exists all by itself.
Exactly.
And so these are just really helpful reminders. And yet you have acknowledged, and what we know to be very true is that you are 100% human.
Yeah.
And so how are you persisting?
Yeah.
In the midst of this out of season moment that we are in, where the vitriol is high, the delusion is high, the spiritual warfare is high. We are in a political year of great global consequence. And yet there seems to be people seem to be out to lunch in my mind.
Yes.
Which I think is part of the spiritual delusion of the moment. How are you keeping your heart encouraged? How are you keeping your eyes fixed to the hills?
Yeah. I think I have an incredible team. I have incredible friends. So that's helpful. But also, I think about this next generation. And, we're here today and we're able to have this conversation because of the people that came before me. And they didn't stop. Absolutely. And they didn't give up.
That's right.
And so when things got difficult, there are many times, that they could have stopped. And so reading their stories and knowing that they also came to crossroads and understand what it means to be steadfast. you know, unmovable,
Unmovable.
you know,
What it
always
needs.
abiding. And that is the keeping power for me. Like even when things are not going your way, how do I remain steadfast? It's like an uphill battle, you know, in this. And it's very difficult. It's really hard. But to give me peace in a sense is that what I'm creating, I may not see the fruit of it myself.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
But maybe the fruit of it may be recognized 10 years, 15 years from now. I don't have children, but I care about your children.
Amen.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
know? And I care about what their future lives at. And that's with my whole heart. So that's the drive and I care about this generation. And I know someone cared about me.
That's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
and my grandmother told me she marched for voting rights so I wouldn't have to.
Well.
And she said, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
But I had to.
Right.
And so how I feel now is sometimes I don't want to. Yeah. But I feel like I have to. Yeah. And so I got to remain on this battlefield, but also understanding that I'm not fighting flesh and blood. Like it is spiritual darkness, you know, it is principalities. It is like, I mean, spiritual blindness is a real thing. I understand it more now than I ever have in my life. Like I can, where people cannot see. And your own people, Christians, like we supposed to be brothers and sisters, you know, part of the same body, many parts, you know, different functions. Yes. You know, all of that to see just complete disregard is hurtful, you know, but I pray for their souls. That's right. You know, because they're lost. And so I think the same way that we desire people to have empathy, I also have to keep my heart pure in the sense of also having empathy, even for people that are just completely blind to the fact that that we too are the Imago Dei, you know? And so I think that's some of the keeping power for me. And then also not taking myself so seriously. Right. And you got to know how to turn it off.
That's right.
You got to know how to...
How do you turn it off?
How do I turn it off?
Yeah, what does it look like?
Well, there's a couple of things. Well, one thing I'm good at, I could ignore someone. Like I could really, I could be in a room.
Ignoring is a superpower.
I'm telling you, I could be in a room.
It is.
That's good. Yeah.
And you may not even exist. Like I could just get in my zone. Listen, I grew up majority as the only child. I know how to. Oh, wow. I didn't. My brother wasn't born until I was 16 and a half.
Oh, wow.
So I only had a year and a half with him before I went to college. So, so I can really, I can disengage real easy, you know. And I think just I'm a joyful person. I like to have a good time. I'm a jokester. So having friends and family where you can do that disengagement. And then I have also other life happening, you know? I have other things happening.
You mean you have a life outside of your work?
Yes, I have a life outside of
My goodness.
outside of this. I like to watch movies where there's a bow on the end, you know, make believe.
Oh, a bow, yeah. That's Christina's jam.
So I'm a Hallmark girl. I like, you know.
I live in rom-com.
Yes, I am.
But, you know.
And I'm trying to read a little bit of fiction, but I can't really. It's hard. It's hard for me because I have so much. And then also, you know, I'm in seminary, so like that's a whole nother thing that takes up a lot of time.
That takes a lot of time.
Yeah, so I have a lot of things, and you know, just enjoying life, and you know, and hobbies. You know,
absolutely.
I'm gonna play some pickleball.
Come on now, there is a pickleball community.
I'm like, Truth Table learns pickleball. I mean, this is a series.
There are some really cute pickleball outfits.
I'm doing they're cute too, and I love fashion. You know, so all of those things, I think those are just some things that help keep you sane. Yes. And just knowing, and I think as a leader, when you display that, it helps others follow into that too.
Absolutely.
And so I try to turn it off.
We need to add an anti-racist pickleball tournament to our
period.
That's what I'm doing. My friends asked me what I wanted to do for my birthday, and I was like, I want to play pickleball.
Well,
I have a bike, and I need to get it. I was doing some bike riding a couple years ago because it's better on your knees. Yeah. Sure. And so I'm actually probably Juneteenth. We're having an event, and I'm going to pull my bike back out.
Come on
and
now.
start riding again.
Come on
so,
now.
I love it.
Right on.
No, thank you for talking about kind of like how you turn it off, And so we are going to take a quick commercial break to pause for the calls, and we will be right back at the table with our sister Latasha Morrison to talk about her book, Brown Faces, White Spaces. So don't go nowhere.
Our NAACP Image Award nominated book, Truth Table, Black Women's Musings on Life, Love, and Liberation, is making waves and shifting culture. I closed this book feeling like I had just partaken in a multi-course meal, filled with grace and the courage to carry on. And I believe you'll finish this book feeling the same way. Morgan Harper Nichols, artist and poet. Buy Truth Table, Black Women's Musings on Life, Love, and Liberation at our website or wherever books are sold.
And we are back at the table with our good sis, Latasha Morrison, author of Brown Faces, White Spaces. So in your book, sister.
Yes.
Come on.
Well, first of all, you say that we could all help heal the racial disparity in our country if we do it together.
Yes.
Okay. So you lift up some concepts in your book about preparation, dedication, and liberation. Can you unpack that for us and teach us how will we get free?
Yeah.
Because we are bound.
Yes.
And also buy the book.
Yes. And buy the book.
Well, I like to organize my writing in such a way where people can understand it and they feel like they can do it. And I like to reclaim words. So in the first book, I reclaimed reconciliation because a lot of people in the work, we don't use the word reconciliation.
That's right.
And so I wanted to explain, if I'm going to use it, I want to explain what the word truly is.
Yeah.
And also redeem it in that sense because God has given us the ministry of reconciliation. So what that looks like. So that's just something for me, that's a conviction for me and what God has had me to do in that, why I use that word.
Okay.
And so I wanted to do that reclaiming for that. So in this one, I wanted to reclaim the word liberation and what it truly means and really explain that. And so I break it down into like our kind of like our dedication, our commitment to the work. And then our like how do we prepare ourselves for the work, the preparation that it takes. And then the dedication is the commitment to breaking down systems, and then the liberating, the flourishing of all, how do we commit to that? And so in some people in these systems, I look at 9 systems. So there's the healthcare, education, entertainment, sports. There's a lot of systems, and that's on the marketplace, and that's only 9. Yeah. And each of those 9 could have been a book of its own. Well, and
it might be.
Exactly. It could have been a book of its own. But that's not, my thing. And I also wanted to be inclusive in my storytelling where I didn't name the bait. I was not going to name the book Blackface. So of course, that would have been a problem. But I wanted to be inclusive. Like I'm as an African American, I can't tell everyone's story. I'm not, my experience is not that of an Asian American, but I wanted to be inclusive because I know this work is going to take partnerships.
Sure.
We can't do it alone.
That's right.
And so we have to find common ground and not really play oppression Olympics within this work. Right. And so I wanted to make sure I'm inclusive of stories and the acknowledgement of not just my experience, but the experience of my other brothers and sisters. And so I wanted to make sure I'm inclusive with that. And then liberation, like just the God's liberating power from Genesis to Revelation. And people really seeing that, the work. When you look at the slave Bible, you see that like 50% of the Bible is missing. That's and the entire book of Exodus, half of Genesis. That's right. And that's intentional because there was an intentionality of really taking away liberation. That's right. And that frees us all. And so I wanted to make sure that people understood that. So I, really make sure that I center scripture in that and really talking about the story you know, of the Israelites in there in Exodus. So I really explaining that and walking that through what that looks like, even, you know, through Revelation. And so within this book, when we say like, what we gonna do?
What is we gonna do?
What is we gonna do? What is we gonna? And it's about equipping and teaching, because what I've noticed in this work is a lot of people are missing context.
Yeah.
You know, they're missing the history, they're missing the story. We do trainings and developments, and when we do a training, if I would be a millionaire if I had maybe $100. I ain't gonna say $5, but maybe $100 for every time someone said, "Why didn't I know this?"
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm talking about our white brothers and sisters saying, "Why did I know this?"
For sure.
I said, "It's by design that you don't."
Absolutely.
For sure.
Because most people have, when they know, they will lean into that empathy, you know, and they will. Some people, you know, I think people who are really embracing the mind of Christ, you know, will try to do better. Yeah. And so what I want to do is give context of the brokenness and why it's broken. Because when in 2020, looking at the gaps, I saw people really saying there's no such thing as systemic racism. I'm like, how? Like at that time, I'm like, my daddy and my mom are still here, and they were born into a world of Jim Crow. That's right. How are we gonna really, like, how can we in our breath say that?
Yeah.
You know? And so that was really crazy. So I was like, when there's a lack of understanding, when there's a gap, that's what I like to write about. You know? And so I wanted to show people how systemic racism started, you know, in certain systems, and this is the impact of it now, and this is the generational impact of it, and how it impacts us today. And so that's what I did in here. So when we start talking about healthcare, you know, what are some of the things I talk about? The story of gynecology, you know, but then also now dealing with the maternal death rate, you know, of Black women, but also America as a developed country having the most women dying in childbirth. That's right. Like, you know, and that should bother us, you know. And so even in education, I have a aunt. This was a teacher for 40 years. She's 80 years old. And, you know, when we talk about desegregation, you know, we look at the teachers that, you know, this was the field that we could go into because we had, you know, separate, not so equal schools.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of people who were in education, but they were the ones that were fired. Like over like 45%
For sure.
of our teachers were fired, and schools were closed. And how we even did desegregation was from a white supremacy type model. And so that's why our school systems are still messed up. Absolutely. Because we didn't do it right the first time, and how we desegregated. So giving people that context. So it's not that what's wrong with y'all. It's more so what's wrong with us. You know? And so when people have that context, your story won't be that no one ever told me. Your story would be that someone told me and I refused to listen. That's a different accountability.
Yeah.
And you got to, at the end of the day, you got to stand before the Lord and deal with that. Yeah. Because we're writing books. We're talking about this on podcasts. That's right. We're preaching sermons, you know, we're writing blogs, you know, we're making videos. You have to choose to lean in and understand. Yeah. And so, but most people are willfully ignorant. But I've written something that can help, you know, but I can't make you engage in it.
Yeah.
But it's here.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the call is faithful teaching and listening well enough, which is obviously what you've done, Latasha, listening well enough to people.
Yeah.
To not dismiss the core questions that come up, but to address it in a way that is so gracious, but also so strong. Yeah. And so you're a gift to the Christian anti-racist movement. I'm really grateful for your work and for your patience with people. I think what people miss is the love that it takes to receive a question that might be rooted in folly. Yeah. That question that may even remind you of the fact that we should not even be here right now. You shouldn't even be asking me this question. But to then offer back a response that's so much better and richer and more gracious than the question itself. And so that's so much of what I've seen you do through the years. And I'm really grateful for this work, because I'm going to give it out to white folks that I don't want to talk to. So thank you.
And that's what it's for, because I think we all have a role in this work. And I think this is a part of my role, like that on-ramping now, the on-ramping with people who are aware and acknowledging.
Right.
Yeah,
and that want to move toward healing. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. Like, this book is not for someone that I'm trying to convince them of systemic racism. It's someone that acknowledges they just don't understand it. That's maybe for someone else, but that's not, I'm not trying to, that's exhausting, first of all. And you see it.
And a safety hazard.
Well, and you know, good teachers understand stage of development. There are certain interventions for people at certain places. And so, So yes, the question still stands. What is we gonna do? Because you know it's terrible. It's terrible out here, and
it's terrible at these streets.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
So as we head out, as we head towards 2024, you know, the year started off real slow, but now I feel like it's speeding up on us. It's getting faster. It's getting faster, and we're getting towards November,
right?
And so I'm asking you now, Latasha the prophet. The prophetess right now. What are you anticipating in the work for fall 2024? And what is we gonna do?
I am prayerful and hopeful.
Look at you.
Prayerful and hopeful. And voteful.
Hey! Come on,
Prayerful and voteful.
Come on, get the t-shirt.
And,
that's the clip.
You know, because I'm telling you, we have, like, I can't get caught up. You know, and you know, and there's a different, I'm Gen X.
Yes.
And there's some things that everybody having conversations about that I ain't thinking about. I'm just I'm like, how we gonna make it over? There's some things that are non-essentials that I just don't have the breath for and the time for it and the space for it. I'm like, do you guys know what's at stake and you're distracted?
They don't.
And because some of these decisions will change. Exactly. Focus.
Your life.
It will change your life for generations. For generations. We're climbing out of stuff now just after 4 years, you know, or 8 years. But think about generations. What that will mean for your children and their children.
That's right.
And that's what's at stake. And that's what I see. So I'm going to keep talking.
I know.
Keep writing.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Keep preaching. You know, everything that I'm doing now. And I think we're just going to have to get braver. It's going to be costly.
Come on.
You know, but
integrity.
And and living into the truth, and not just talking about the truth, but living the truth.
That's what.
And I think that's just really important for all of us right now. We can't give up, though. We can't give up, and we can't, you know, say it's big. It is bigger than us, you know. And that's when we're weak. He is strong. Like, we got to live into some of the scripture that we quote.
Back to the basics.
And yes, back to the basics. And this is the thing. And I'm like, I'm really pleading with God, like, God save us, like, God save us, and like, you know, open the eyes of your people, you know, and you know, and I also pray some like Old Testament prayers, like, Lord, get them.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
Right.
I do. Yes, I do.
I do.
I pray some of those David breaths. Take their breath. Like you know, if you can't change their mind, break the teeth. You know? And I mean, honestly, but I'm being honest, and I want to be authentic because that's real. And we're really trying to not just, you know, educate people, but also encourage our people. You know, and really it's going to take partnership. So I think in this next phase, it's about this, not this. You know, I think it's really going to be about collaboration and partnerships. And I'm, you know, and I'm like, God, I'm open to whatever you would have me do, because none of it belongs to me.
You're right.
You know, Be the Bridge doesn't belong to me.
We cannot make it by ourselves.
And we cannot be by ourselves. And it's too lonely by ourselves. And that's the mistake. And we can't get distracted by infighting. I look at the patterns of what happened in movements before. And why, and it's one reason why I don't call the work that I do, a movement. I call it a lifestyle.
Mm.
You know, and because you don't pick it up and
Right.
put it down.
That's right.
You know, this is gospel work,
Yeah.
and so I'm in community with a lot of different people that do
Yes, you are.
what I do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, where can we collaborate? Where can we partner? How does that look? Is that gonna, you know? And I think we're gonna have to really think like this
Yes.
moving into the
You're
future.
right.
And so we're better together,
Yep.
It's
you
a
know.
must.
And I think that's the thing. And I'm also looking at, okay, God, what are you trying to do in
Mhm.
my heart, in our hearts? Like, what opportunities are here? Like, looking for the opportunities,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but also looking for, okay, what is God trying to communicate?
Yeah.
Because there's something that,
Um,
you know, I'm supposed to get even out of this. You
Mhm.
know, is it to build my faith? You know,
Yeah.
is it, have I gotten too comfortable?
Mm.
You
Mhm,
know,
mhm.
am I not dependent? You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, even scripture tells us it's better to be at a funeral than at a wedding,
Mhm.
Mm.
because grieving
Mm.
and sorrow and lament draws us closer to God.
Mama.
And
That's
which I
right.
don't
That's
like to
right.
do that, you know,
Right.
but
Yeah.
but if that's gonna get my attention
Mhm.
to feel closer and vulnerable, um, maybe God's doing that. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
maybe he's
Mm.
like, are we supposed to be praying? You know,
That's right.
like, you know, where we've gotten lax
Mm.
and comfortable,
Mhm.
and we're celebrating and and you know, we're at the wedding feast, you know, all
Right.
the time. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm always looking, okay, God, like, okay, even in this, even in this, sometimes you feel in this despair and this anxiousness of what could happen. What am I supposed to get out of this?
That's right.
You know, what are
Mm.
you doing? What do you want to do to my heart?
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to change in me? You know?
Sanctification is
Yeah.
happening.
What am I missing?
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
where are the opportunities here? And so that's what I'm asking myself, like, even in the midst of all of this, you
Yeah.
know? So,
Yeah.
so yeah, because you could get in silos, and, you know, like even with, even with this book, like
Mhm.
with the
Mm.
first book, I had no expectation but to create a book that was the cornerstone of the organization that people could hand out and that
Yeah.
could help people
Yeah.
and change, you know, and God use it as a tool of transformation, you
Yeah.
know. That's the only expectation. Everything else was gravy. But
Yeah.
now, when you've had that
Yep.
success with the first
Yes.
book,
Yes. Talk about
so
it.
you know that kind of felt good. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I didn't even know things were happening. I'm like, what that
Listen,
mean?
I wouldn't know. I haven't had a book
Yeah,
quite that
like I was
successful.
like, what that mean?
Hello?
And
I would not know.
my
Yes.
agent would say, oh, that's like, okay, it's kind of like equivalent to like a Grammy or something. Oh, okay, okay.
Absolutely.
Now what does it
Come
mean?
on.
Like, what
Come
does
on
it
now.
mean? You
Come on,
know?
Grammy
And
artists.
but with this, it's a different season. It's a
Yeah.
different climate.
It
That's
is.
right.
But am I going to still believe in the work and the words? And I feel like this book is better than the first book.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it may not see the things,
Come on.
but does that take away from it?
That's right.
You know, so it's like, so I
Mhm.
feel like some
I
of
feel
this
that.
is even for
I
me
feel that.
and my growth
Mhm.
and, you know, my expectation, because is God still not good?
That's right. Yeah.
You
If
know,
you don't
it's,
get the bestseller.
if I don't have a bestseller,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that it's not a bestseller,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
that what does that validate?
Yeah.
And so that's what you know, I have to check myself to make
Mhm.
sure that it's not the numbers that
Yeah.
validate. And I've even told, you know, my agents that I don't want to know the numbers. I know because it trips me up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No.
It trips
Yeah,
me
that's
up.
wise.
And so
Faithfulness.
yes, I just gotta be
faithfulness.
faithful.
That's wise.
I gotta be faithful and like and live it. Like I'm not in any people who work with me, you know, my family could tell you, like, I try to live as authentic as I can be. What you see is what you get,
Yeah.
That's
you
right.
know, and that's what I want to live into, and
Mm.
that's what the legacy that I
Mhm.
want to leave behind. And
Mm.
so
Amen.
that's Latasha.
Come on,
Man, I
Latasha.
love it.
That's
I love
Latasha.
it. You know, Latasha, you know, we've talked about, you know, the climate. You talked
Mhm.
about how your family member who's 94 who voted, I'm sorry, marched for voting rights. And I
Mhm.
think about the fact that we marching for voting rights right
Exactly.
now. I think about the attack on DEI. I think
Oh, yeah.
about the lawsuits, conservative
Mhm.
group lawsuits coming against Fearless
Yeah.
Fund,
Yes,
you
I
know,
talked
funding
about
for
it,
Black
yeah.
women. That the latest is that a conservative group has now sued the city of First Repair of city of Evanston, for giving out reparations to Black residents there in Evanston, Illinois. So we see the rollback and what's going on. Yeah. In your book, you talk about, systemic racism and the different places that it shows up, 9 different places. But I'm curious about the liberation stories. I'm curious about your thoughts on all of that. Yes. But I'm also curious about, I know that you weave in threads of hope for us. Yeah. And so I'm curious about if you could lift up a liberation story that might give us some hope, because it is really discouraging right now to see that type of litigation coming against our people, specifically Black women, hello, who are business owners and nonprofit
we get
leaders.
Less than 2% of the money. And so in the effort to what they call pull yourself up by the bootstraps, we've never played victim. We've always created our own pathways, our own tables. We created our own schools, our own colleges, our own funds. Yeah. And even in that, now that's because of the affirmative action rollback. And this is the thing why you have to vote.
Vote full. Be vote
exactly.
Prayerful, hopeful,
yes. Because I'm telling you, those Supreme Court picks matter. And it's unfortunate that these are happening, but we have to be careful even as women, because the same law that's being used to roll back affirmative action, who did affirmative action impact the most?
Yeah. White women.
Exactly. So the same way that you can't have funds for Black women,
soon.
The same thing could happen for women.
That's right.
For sure.
That's right.
For sure.
And so you have to, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And we have to remember that. And so with the liberation stories, we do have to have a plan of action. And one of the liberation stories that I talk about, even from healthcare, even from the church standpoint, and just some of the things that people are really experiencing in church. Have a couple that's a part of our community that I read this liberation story last night, where they actually it was impacting their daughter's self-esteem. They were in a predominantly white church. They wanted to be bridge builders in that church, but the church was rejecting it. And after years, I think like 12 years of just rejection during the pandemic, that was their time to get free.
I know.
And so they, their freedom and liberation came from, partnering with some other members that had a vision of a church that was more inclusive. And they've started their own Bible study. They started from a Bible study and now really pastoring a church for people who had some of the similar experiences that really wanted to live into inclusion. And there's this model of church of a racial bridge building that they're doing. So that was a part of their liberation. Wow. Yeah. So their liberation wasn't necessarily changing the environment that they were in. Their liberation was from leaving.
For sure.
Wow.
For sure.
And just like the Israelites, their liberation wasn't staying in Egypt.
It was gone.
And and changing things there. Theirs was setting them free.
That's right.
And sometimes liberation can be that of staying, sometimes people's liberations, because I talked to a young lady that's in a corporation that's doing groups and having these discussions, but nothing is changing from the head down, but she's able to create some spaces that's helping the people of color there because of her presence.
Yeah.
And she'll be there until she feels like she's not going to be there.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's her liberation.
Yeah.
But somebody else's liberation may say, I'm going to build my own table over here.
That's right.
And really financial collaboration. There's a lot of wealth in our community. Right. I think there's an opportunity for us to think differently.
Yes.
We are too dependent.
I agree.
On other systems, where even the African American dollar doesn't even stay in our community long.
Yes, yeah.
And there's a lot of buying power. And you have to begin hurting people economically. That's when you get people's attention.
Greed is what drives.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so I really think this season that we're in is going to challenge us to think differently, because I believe we become lax and a little complacent. And I think this is going to really hopefully bring us together And because we're brilliant and, you know, we're creative, we're innovative, you know, America wouldn't be without us, you know? So that's important for us to remember and to know. And I think God is going to use that giftedness, you know, in this next season. So I don't, you know, and that's just me, Tasha, being hopeful.
That's right.
You know, because that's me. But,
hopeful,
you know,
prayerful,
yeah. But I really think it's organization and leadership. Organization and leadership. And I think leadership, you know, from the table that you've created and from the voices that you have, you know, you have people's attention. Leadership from our elders, you know, I think this is a time to lead and to collaborate and to for us to listen to one another. And I think this is going to be key in this next season. And really like a dying of self. Like we're going to have to leave all the egos.
Come on.
To the side.
That's right.
You know?
Maturity.
Yes. It's going to take maturity. I do believe that. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Latasha, for
Thank
coming and have a seat at the table with us. Can you talk to our listeners, let them know how they can follow you, follow your work, where they can buy your book?
Yes.
Buy a book.
You can buy this book where books are sold, you know, where all books are sold. And you can follow me at Latasha Morrison on all the social media platforms. And also the work I do with Be the Bridge at Be the Bridge on all social media platforms. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking a seat at the table with us. And thank you all for taking a seat at the table with us for this Behind the Book episode with Latasha Morrison, author of Brown Faces, White Spaces. Of course, you all can send us your thoughts and your comments and whatnot on Instagram, Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Facebook as well. And you can email us your thoughts at asktruthstable@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate and review the show on iTunes and subscribe on your favorite podcast player. We will see you soon on the next Truth Table. Bye, y'all.